the Dodgers, first baseman slash outfielder, more of a first baseman. He's not really a household name yet. He's starting to become one. If you ask me between Bellinger and Brinson, I would put my money on Bellinger 3 times over as being the surefire, can't miss guy. But this guy, barring any major injuries or trades or anything crazy happening, probably won't sniff the majors at all this season and will bide his time in AAA. And 2018 is his year. Uh, when Adrian Gonzalez's contract expires, he'll come up. Like I said, barring anything unforeseen injury wise or trade wise or anything like that, if the Dodgers, the current roster is there the whole season, he's not coming up. But this is a future 15-year first baseman, 30 homer, 100 RBI guy, 280, 290 average. Maybe I'm being a little lofty, but I mean, that's the kind of guy he is. And you could probably trade Brinson and get a Cody Bellinger plus right now. So talk to me a little bit more about Bellinger. By the way, as a 20-year-old in AA, he jacked 23 homers and hit 263. I was young for the level, and 23 homers at any age is putting on a show, let alone 20 years old in AA when you're 3-4 years below the grade. So, what's your take with Bellinger?
Yeah, and I think your expectations are lofty, just like a swing. And if you guys haven't seen it, you need to check out his swing. I not only write about prospects over on Razzball, I also have a podcast with my cohort, my co-prospector, Michael Halpern of ImaginaryBrickWall.com. It's my little plug for my boy out there. But we were having a little bit of debate a couple episodes ago because we do different systems. We were going through the Dodger system, and we were talking about Bellinger. And I'm one of the high guys on Bellinger. I love him. I think he's a top 20 prospect. He was in my top 30 or so midseason last season. He had a great 2015. He hit 27 homers at high A. It is the Cal League, which is very hitter slanted. So there was a lot of, sort of sideways looks, and some folks were very skeptical of what Bellinger had done. He then started out the season rough, didn't hit out the gate, in AA in 2016 in AA Tulsa. Then second half just took off, ended up hitting 23 homers in AA, went up for a 3-game little moonlighting at AAA Oklahoma City, and he hit 3 homers in 3 games. This guy has a lofty swing. He hits the ball in the air. He hits the ball hard. And the thing that I love about him the most is I think he compares. I don't think he's going to be Paul Goldschmidt, but he's very athletic like Paul Goldschmidt. And what I mean by that is this guy could actually be up in 2017. And I actually do think you will see him sometime in the second half of the Dodgers because he can play all 3 outfield positions. He can play center field, and he has logged time in center field in the minors. He's a great athlete. His father, obviously, Clay Bellinger of utility fielder fame with the Yankees. So he's got those bloodlines. He grew up around clubhouses. He grew up in the major leagues. He sort of has that behind him. In addition to the great athleticism, power stroke, all that stuff. He's got a great organization behind him, and the Dodgers do an excellent job in terms of player development. And I think he's a ready-made replacement for Agon in 2018 or 2019, whenever that happens. But I do think he ends up coming up and platooning a little bit in that outfield because he's such a great athlete. In addition to the power, he's also going to give you some speed as well. He can steal bases. He's not going to steal 20 bases, anything like that. But you could be looking, 8 to 10, somewhere in that range, which from your first baseman, always helps you a little bit. Batting average isn't great. Maybe he's a 270 batting average guy, but he does walk. He does hit for power. He can steal some bases. And he's going to give you some versatility, potentially, from his eligibility standpoint for his position in his first few years, because I do think he will see some starts in the outfield.
Well, all right, and that those 8 to 10 stolen bases speaks to his athleticism and that Goldschmidt comp. So I do like that one a lot. He is extremely athletic, as you mentioned, versatile enough to play all 3 outfield spots. Although he's traditionally more a first baseman and probably where he'll play his career. My expectations might have been a little lofty, but if I temper them down from 280 to 270, from 30 to 25, from 100 to 90. Does that still seem lofty for him, or do you think that's year in and year out what he will likely be putting up if it all breaks right?
I think absolutely. That's exactly
Right.
what I would probably comp him for. If I was being conservative, would be, 260, 270 in the batting average range. But and a lot of batting average, I mean, we know a lot of that is luck based, just where balls drop in a given year. Uh, and then, the power, absolutely, and the rest of the numbers for sure. I'm totally with you there.
Right. And now is the time. You get him now. You wait it out a year or two, and then for the next 10 years, you got your first baseman. You don't even have to think about it. You got a solid first baseman. Um, AJ Reed, Cody Bellinger. You can only have one.
We had this debate on the Dodgers podcast as well, and on the Houston podcast. I am Bellinger all the way. I
I would
think that
agree.
he, I think that his floor is much higher than what Reed's is right now. There were some serious questions with Reed, and I think I always look back at when I have every all things being equal, the thing that I go back on is walk rates, which they're both pretty high. I think Bellinger's actually is a little higher, though I'm speaking off the cuff, so I could be wrong about that. And then I look at organizations, and the Astros do a good job of developing players, but I think that their players sort of end up being pretty good from what their ceilings are in terms of talent, where the Dodgers get the absolute utmost out of their players all the time, whether it's pitchers, whether it's hitters, whether it's bullpen pieces. They typically are able to get the most out of their players. Their players reach their ceilings.
Yes, they do. I would agree with that, and I would agree with Bellinger as well. That would be my take. Reed's one of these, shooting stars. Wasn't really highly regarded as a prospect. Kind of broke out, and everybody wanted him. He's regressed a little. He's up and down, and Bellinger is a lot steadier and is riding a much more natural plane to his fame.